So, good evening, everyone, students, parents, and professionals who are watching us. This is the second episode of our 3R series, especially for the students who are looking forward to arrive in Canada and make their future out there. Uh, in today's session, we are going to talk about the reality. Actually, it's going to be a reality check. We have student panelists with us, and of course, Anupma Sharma, who's going to be taking the lead with me. Uh, Giving you a little background, it's a 3-episode series that we're running from Punjabi Chambers of Commerce, especially keeping in view the young youth group or the youth squad, which is looking forward to participate and migrate to Canada. A little background about Punjabi Chamber of Commerce. It's a 17-chapter organization with a social impact into 5 countries and 4 continents. Uh, Established in 2017, we are building ourselves strongly across the globe, and we have no restriction, or we are specially always saying this, that there is no religion, no politics involved into Punjabi Chamber of Commerce. It's an open place with diversity and inclusion. PCC, can I have the next slide, please? Yeah. So this is where you see our presence across the globe. India is becoming very strong when we talk of the chapters, and having a very strong coordination with chapters in other continents. The most important thing that you see on the slide is GYS, which is the Global Youth Squad. So we keep having these sessions just to empower our youth. As you see on your screen, the objective of this whole GYS and PCF is to build up our coming generations of Punjabis and help them build a strong network, which will be helpful for them in times to come. The whole dynamics and the numbers are in front of you on your screens. Last but not the least, Global Youth Squad is actually facilitating a lot of activities for students, helping them to volunteer, mentorship, and to gain their professional insights as to how they can grow professionally. Can I have the next slide, please? The positioning and the ethos of Punjabi Chamber of Commerce is the C's that you see, the 7 C's: commerce, cooperation, culture, creativity, community, and communication, which are the most important pillars, which is capital building, capacity building, and community building. And that's how we are building up our coming up generations through the Global Youth Squad. If I can have the next one over. So here you see, we look forward to the youngsters joining us, and of course the professionals who want to voice and advocate what they do, how they can be contributing to the network of young youth, the professionals, through various networking committees that we have. As part of the PCC, we offer discounts through the organizations who are our members, and the professionals who are in their individual capacity are members. We look to grow ourselves through the events, networking, and newsletters. Of course, the main objective is to give back to the society through our membership and guidance that we can provide. Of course, if you become a member of PCC, you stand out and you get noticed on various professional platforms, webinars, and events. So I look forward to each one of you who are watching us live or would be watching us our recordings. Do join in. It's a great platform. It's a great organization which is building up itself and, of course, the community as such. Can we have the next slide, please? Of course, a little about myself. I'm on the board of directors and also the co-chair of Mumbai chapter. I work extensively with students into the domain of their capacity and competency building. That's why you see me moderating this particular series along with Dr. Anupma Sharma, who is based out of Canada. And can we have the next slide, because I'm introducing Anupma? Yeah. So it's great to see a professional like Anupma who advocate and they counsel students who are venturing out into the area which is an unknown territory, especially when children, youngsters, they migrate or they look forward to setting up their base in countries abroad. Presently, along with me, I have the honor of, saying this out that she's also on board of directors of BCC, and it's our moral responsibility to build up this community more strongly. She's a certified empowerment and life coach, and of course, she is a CEO of PCHS. I welcome you, Anupma, to this session, the second session of our 3R series for the youth. Apart from Anupma, I have two students who have volunteered with us and who are on our panel and would be giving you the exact reality check as to what happens when you guys come in here. Definitely, we are going to ask you, Karan Pratap and Guneet, very open questions like we did in the last session. But a little background about Karan Pratap. He is an international student studying in Winnipeg and doing his BA in political science. He is a huge movie buff. I think, is it Bollywood or Hollywood that
it's mostly Hollywood. I'm
Hollywood.
sure, yeah.
Okay. Super. And he loves reading newspaper and writing poetry. He's always wanted to be an educator so that he can help people and himself in that process. Karan, I welcome you, and I'm glad there is one person that I find who aspires to be an educationist. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Guneet. Thank you. I have Guneet Kaur, who was there with us in the previous session. She is a mental health and addictions worker, graduated from Sir Stanford's Fleming College, Peterborough, Ontario. I welcome you, Guneet. It's a pleasure seeing you again. And you have your master's in applied psychology, which is so very important in today's times. And we heard you speak a lot about mental health. I welcome you, and I hope you're going to make this session more interesting and more informative for all the students who are watching us. I now invite Anupma Sharma. Please take over the platform. It's all yours. And I will be noting down questions. I know there will be a lot of interaction we're going to have. So students, do keep up yourselves, keep writing questions, keep listening to the interesting things that they are going to share with you, and we'll move forward. Over to you, Anu. Thank you.
Thank you, Harpreet. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Karan Pratap and Guneet, for getting up so early to do this with me. If I can please see if you can put up the PPT slide. Arti? And while we're waiting for that, I actually want to thank the Global Youth Squad. I see Robindeep's name there for giving us the chance to hold the 3R webinar series. So I wanted to thank you all. Okay, so if we can go to the second slide, please, Arti. While we're waiting, so what the webinar today is about the reality that students face. We're going to be talking about moral values. We're going to be talking about the expectations versus the reality. And we're going to be talking about some real insights as to what it's like to be here in Canada. I think this is really important to have this conversation before we do start. We have Karan Pratap, we have Guneet, we actually have another student that's going to be helping out and answering questions. Perfect, thank you so much. Okay, so the first topic that we're going to talk about is moral values. When we were trying to have a conversation about what kind of topics to have with the students, the Global Youth Squad and myself kind of brainstormed and had a conversation about what is needed. So here we have the moral values. Being away from your family is very scary, and it gives you a chance to define who you are and the life that you want to create. So almost you are away from the people that you've known and that you've grown up with, but it's a chance for you to find who you are and find what makes you you. There are a few things to consider when you're looking at your life in Canada away from your parents and your caregivers. So the first is when you are asked to be in a certain situation, ask yourself, is this something that you want to do? So a lot of the times, and I talked about this on previous webinars, we have this instinct, something in our gut, something makes your hairs on your hand, on arms stand. Sometimes it's an uncomfortable situation. I think it's really important to stick with that gut feeling because it's trying to warn you, trying to tell you something. Another question would be, if you are not a drinker or smoker before coming to Canada, are you wanting to experiment or is this peer pressure? So you need to ask yourself that. And if you do choose to drink or smoke when you're here, you're gonna be able to, or you're gonna be able to learn pretty quickly what is your threshold. If you decide to drink, how many drinks? Because you'll get to a point where this is too much, you're getting sick, maybe this is not for you. So know that there's going to be a balance, but you also should know how much you can tolerate. There's going to be some other topics that I'm going to be talking about later on that ties into the smoking and the drinking. But I think it's important to ask yourself, are you doing it just to fit in? Or are you doing this because this is what you personally would like to do? Many of you will be in a relationship for the first time when you come to Canada. When you come here and start to meet others, again, I'm talking about boundaries. So that's going to be the theme, I think, today of today's session. What are your boundaries and what you feel comfortable doing and not doing? Some things to look out are, just because you are friends in a relationship does not mean that you have to be, because your friends are in a relationship doesn't mean that you have to be. It's important not to think, okay, I'm the only one who's single, all my friends are in relationships. You should be questioning yourself, maybe now is not the right time, or I haven't met the right person. You should make a list of the kind of qualities that you are looking for in someone and see if they match with your morals. I think this is important. There's this saying that people are attracted to the opposites. Fantastic. But I think it's also to ask yourself, does this person match with your politics, with your morals? Would this person be potentially someone that you can introduce you to your family, right? These are kind of questions you should be thinking at the back of your mind. And Karan Pratap and Guneet, please feel free to interrupt whenever you feel like you need to say something, okay?
Sure.
Okay, so does this person help you to become a better person and support your decision? So a lot of the times, if you're going to be in a relationship for the first time, you want someone to balance you out. If you're an introvert, this person might be an extrovert. This person wants to recognize the work that you're doing, appreciate you. This is about the balance. This is a person bringing the good things out of you. When you're in a relationship, it's important for the person to pull you up rather than push you down. If you're feeling that person is pushing you down, maybe that might not be a fit for you. And just because you're in a relationship with that person doesn't mean you have to stay. Again, if you're not feeling comfortable or there's warning signs, know that it's okay to leave a situation because it's not working for you. If you decide to become intimate, so we're going to be talking about more of this towards the end of the seminar, but if you become intimate, it is important to know how to be safe and the resources that are available to you. Again, if you're going to be in a relationship for the first time, you decide how far you want to go into that relationship. And if you decide to become intimate with someone, what are your boundaries? What do you feel comfortable doing? And what do you feel that you want out of the relationship? Okay, so those are important things to be asking yourself and having conversations with your partner about. So some thoughts to consider. when you were in India, what things were a part of your routine? The reason why I think this is important is a lot of these things are going to be helping you when you're going through a period of adjustment here. It's important to keep some sort of routine because you're already going through a huge shock, right? As Karan Pratap can vouch, he is in one of the coldest cities in Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. But personally for myself, I studied in a boarding school throughout my life. I was always away from my parents. And I agree with whatever Anup said, morals. I'm a philosophy student. So, I greatly admire people who kind of, stick to their morals and accord with their morals. But I think what's more important, Anup, is that, a lot of people, when they come to Western countries, we gotta specify this thing that it's a Western country. It's different in contrast with India in a lot of things, whether it's like it's an individualistic country with in contrast with India, which is like collectivist country, So people, I mean, for example, personally, me, a lot of my friends really get overly excited when they come to Western countries like Canada, or United States, because a lot of things, things are excited over here, and we are not constrained by our parents in such a way. We are individuals. And so it's important to stay in your boundaries, because when you cross your threshold, that is the point when real problems actually occurs. And I think that's why it's really important to kind of constrain yourself, reiterate your Indian routine, because I don't think you should ever forget your Indian values, which are like really different to what we have here in Canada. So it's like a huge cultural shock, first of all. And, there are so many things which you got to consider. And yeah, Winnipeg is really cold, and it's really hard to kind of adjust with a lot of new things, but eventually you do,
That's right. And I think it's like the shock of a new country, the shock of climate, the shock of being isolated maybe for the first time. Maybe you're used to, as Karan Pratap mentioned, that he's been away to schools from his parents for quite some time. So it's all about your experience, but trying to manage that. So did you meditate when you were in India? Did you pray? Was that something that you did daily? Make sure when you come here that you continue it and include that in your daily routine. If there are things in your life that you are questioning, know that is completely normal, and that is your step into adulthood, right? So a lot of the students that are coming here are starting at 17 up till their 20s. It doesn't matter what your age is. It's a chance for you to explore who you are, to define who you are. So you're doing that in a new country, but hold on to something that you know that there's some comfort, just because it's going to be overwhelming. If something again doesn't feel right, or being around someone doesn't feel right, then follow your instinct. Trust it and yourself, and get away from that situation as quickly and safely as you can. There's going to be times that you might be by yourself, and I'm aging myself by saying this, but when I was a teenager, I got left somewhere by my cousin, and I had no way of getting home. And that time we had payphones. This is before cell phones. So I always made sure I had enough money to make a phone call and enough money for a taxi, because I didn't want to be in that situation again. And this was my cousin. So know that there's going to be some life skills that you need. This is going to be one of them. If you need to get away, now everybody has cell phones. So make sure if you're going to go into a situation, let at least one person know where you are. This is very important. And if you're uncomfortable or you're going to somewhere, that person can know, okay, listen, if I don't check back in with you in an hour, this is where I'm going to be. So know that you need to create sort of some tips and some safety plans so that people will know if you're safe. Aarti, can I have the next slide, please? Okay, so now expectations versus reality. So we do this a lot during our webinars, because a lot of the students are coming to a different country. So they might think that, the grass is always greener on the other side. So what we want to do is talk a little bit about what to expect, what you think is going to happen versus what really is going to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the expectations, but I'd like Karan Pratap and Guneet to share their reality during this conversation. So expectations. Ensure that your marks are at par and how they are in India. So if you're, 90 plus in India, just know when you come here, it might or might not be that, and that's okay. Your extended family will be there to support you. I always ask this, and people are going to get tired of me saying this, but anytime I talk to a student, I will ask them, was there someone to pick you up from the airport when you got here? And I think the reason why I asked that question is because we are told, oh, mera taya, chacha, mama, whatever is going to pick me up from the airport, and they don't show up. So for the students and their parents, I think it's important that if your extended family is saying that they're going to be there to help, just make sure there's a backup plan, because it breaks my heart to know that when a student comes here, their first opinion of being away is a sense of abandonment. And that's not right. And that's why we created Suno. We want them to know that there's people here. You're able to survive off the money that you have in your GIC. This is very doable if you know how to budget. Getting your PR status will be easy. Again, we'll talk more about that. So, and then the last is the homesickness will fade. I've been away from home for 13 years at one point. It doesn't get easier, right? It gets less and less. You get homesick, but it's still there. Can we just go back, Arti, to the previous slide? Okay, so the reality. So I'm going to chat a little bit about the expectation. We already talked about the expectation, but the reality. And then feel free, my student panelists, to jump in if you feel. So you're about. Go ahead. Okay. No, go ahead.
Awesome. So first point, obviously, I think this is like a predominant problem in people who are coming to Canada, first of all. And I think there's a major brain drain which is happening in Punjab, particularly. A lot of students, obviously, they do not really think about what they want to do. They don't really have a higher aim or a common goal which they want to attain when they come to Canada. They have this misconception that, we'll just go to Canada and it's a great land of opportunities. It's a mystical land where everything is, brilliant and perfect. It's like a utopia. I'm not saying it's not. It's a good country. It's obviously, comparatively, it's a really good country. But there's reality too. It's a new country. You have so many opposing forces, which are, in terms of culture, in terms of your education, in terms of managing your work. And I think the biggest misconception is that, students do not really have an aim. I think there's a lot of opportunities in India too. People just have this aim that they just want to go to Canada and get their PR and stuff. But I think there are more important things than getting your PR. First of all, it's your education. And education is like really consequential because people think that, they'll just abandon the education and instead start working, some labor jobs. But I just want you to remind guys, you are more than that, you have higher capabilities, and it's hard. It's going to be really hard when you come to Canada. This is the reality. But that resentment, that hardness, that conflicts, it's going to teach you. And exactly. And the family support, I have so many family in Toronto and Vancouver, but I specifically chose Winnipeg just for that reason, because I trust my friends over my family. I'm going to be as blunt as that. It's because I have had personal connections. I have had personal examples where my family was never actually there for me. My relatives were never there for me, and my friends were always there for me. So, choose your, don't rely too much on your family. It's always going to be you. It's in the end of the day, it's always going to be you standing and, finding your way at the end of the tunnel. I think Guneet can cover the rest of the points. This is what I want to say.
Thanks, Karan, for sharing your opinion and your experiences. Well, I agree with the fact that it's very important that you trust in yourself and know that you're the only person who's going to be standing in the end of the day. But, it's very important that when you're making this decision, or when you're building or you're thinking of a better future for yourself and you're putting so much at stake, you want to be prepared with what the reality is. I think this is a great opportunity for at least the ones who've joined today to know as to what your expectations were earlier and what you can actually, come down to as to what the reality looks like, and then again reevaluate your expectations. There are different perspectives everybody will give you up based on their experiences, right? But yes, there are two sides to each coin, and it really depends as to how you're going to perceive each experience. I was one of those fortunate people where I had somebody to pick me up at the airport, and I had a really smooth transition from coming from India to Canada here. They will be there sometimes, they will not be there sometimes, but it's, do you have plan B? What, they show up, great. If they don't, then what? Right? I think that's where the whole story changes for anybody, as to knowing maybe you might have expectations, but also being prepared for, the worst. And that is, I think it's all about having life skills to adjust to the new environment. For some people, there's going to be culture shock. For some people, who have done their research, exactly know what it's going to look like. I have friends who knew everything, maybe more than I did, about Canada when I reached, because they were so ready, right? But again, they were ready in theory as to, yeah, this is how it happens, but emotionally they found it really difficult to cope as to, okay, I knew this was going to happen, but I still don't know how to adjust to this, because it feels very different when you come here leaving everything. Especially for the ones who start from scratch, right? Who've had a background back home, but then again have to start from the very beginning. I mean, like Anu said, with money, with responsibilities, PR and everything, it is a lot to handle, but if taken one step at a time, things can get really, really easy. And seeking the support, I think, is the most important aspect of getting through this hardship.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you,
that
Vinay.
were great points. Yeah. Might I add, can I add some more thing? Just like one more thing.
Sure.
Yeah. I just want all the students or all the people who are here in this meeting to just, choose their aim, choose their course, choose whatever studies they want to do wisely. I believe there's like so much potential in India, and it really pains me when I see students just doing that same monotonous course just because they just want to follow their peers and stuff like that. I really yearn people to kind of think about their course, because it's really important. I mean, Gunit did psychology. I love psychology. I'm doing philosophy and political science, which a lot of students may say that, what are you going to do with political science? And I'm like literally bringing so much money on political science. It's because I have this passion, and I believe everybody has this intrinsic passion and don't care about, I mean, obviously, PR is important, work is important, but at the end of the day, your education is one goal, which is like really important. So just choose your course wisely, just seek your passion, chase your passion.
Thank you. Aarti, can I get the next slide, please? So colleges will have support services for me on campus. Health coverage that colleges provide are enough. Working under the table or cash is not the best way to find work in Canada, and getting a car loan because that is the only loan you can get. So these are these are real life sort of expectations and conversations that I've had with students. And so the reality are that these services are available on campus, but the hours might not be that accessible and they are not culturally appropriate. So as an organization, Suno, when we started, we reached out to colleges, particularly all in Ontario. We received feedback and response from 3, and we reached out to hundreds. And they said, well, good luck with what you're doing. When a college comes on board and you work with them, let us know how it goes. So for them, it's almost like you're doing what we're doing, but what we're doing is completely different. If you require more than basic health support, then you should look into a more in-depth coverage. Hospitals and clinics do not cover anything that your benefits provide, everything that your benefits provide. This is very important because a lot of the students that I've talked to and helped came and they were told that they're going to get the health coverage that their college or university had told them, but essentially this didn't cover anything but basic health coverage. One of the students had to go to the hospital frequently because she was having issues and she had to pay out of pocket. So this is do research and figure out what your health benefits cover. The employers have the upper hand. So a lot of the times the students, whenever they text me, they're like, Anuji, we're looking for a job. And I said, okay, great. Here's people. This is, you're looking for work. Here you go. They're like, is it cash or SIN? And SIN is a social insurance number. That's the way you give your SIN number. And I said, well, it's SIN. They're like, no, we just want to do cash. So I get it. It's a way to make quick money. But the employers have the upper hand and can decide not to pay you or not pay you the full amount. There is no one holding them accountable, and you could be harassed, and it is not the safest way to work here. So there's a movement that has started from students here. I have a labor background, so this is really close to my heart. So they call themselves the Naujawan Network. And if you go onto social media, the Naujawan Network are a bunch of students that have been defrauded by their employer. Whether they worked in a restaurant, whether they worked for a trucking company, whether they worked, regardless, they have been defrauded out of thousands and thousands of dollars. So they created their own network to hold these employers accountable. So before, when you come here and you decide someone told you to take a job for cash, think twice, because you'll be the one that's going to be taken advantage of in the end. There is misinformation to students before coming to Canada. Ganesh Pratap mentioned, there's a lot of students that come do labor jobs, right? So what happens is a lot of the consultants in India say, oh, the only loan you're going to get is a car loan. So please take that so you can be an Uber Eats driver, skip the dishes driver. That is false. If they are telling you to go car loan, are they explaining to you about the interest rates? Are they explaining to you about how much money it's going to cost on the wear and tear of your car, how much it's going to affect your credit? They're not telling you that you have to pay insurance, gas, etc. Get a car when you're ready and have had enough time to build your credit and save money. There's jobs that you can have that you don't need a car. So that's my sort of advice when it comes to these things that are taking place. But again, if I could mention that the most important is the health coverage. If you already have a pre-existing health condition, look into that before you come here and see what kind of coverage you can get.
Yeah, it's sorry.
No.
About the health coverage thing, I study in a university, and I'm a member of my university students board. We have the students board. I think it's in every university, and you kind of stand in those elections and you win for the position, right? So we're kind of advocating for international students bill, because I did not research it but I don't know if that's prevalent in every other province, but especially in Manitoba, government does not include international students in their socializable medical bill. It's privatized. You gotta pay for a whole stuff, and it covers only specific things, not everything. So we are advocating for that thing, and it's really important to kind of, I agree with Anup. It's important to kind of gain every information that you can. And for the support services, I believe there are support services for international students and for every other domain in every college and every university. But the thing is that sometimes they're not really that accessible. So my advice will be to follow university at every social page that you can, because they usually post their everything on the social media. And it's important to kind of in this digitalized age to follow your university and colleges at everything you can, and gain as much knowledge as you can. Even for this labor jobs, I believe I've been here for 1 year. And I believe if you just go and search around, there are so many things that you can do. People are just confined to that whatever their peers want you to do, but you just gotta be out of your comfort zone and you just socialize with people and speak with people. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Arti, can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Ganesh Pratap and Gurneet, because they are providing the real insights. I'm talking secondhand because of the students and what they've told me and the team with Suno. I just want, before I turn it over to Ganesh Pratap and Gurneet, I do just want the people listening to know that we started a nonprofit called Suno. our website is called sunocharity.com. We started because we knew that there is a gap with the international students here. Guneet, Karan Pratap, and we have a team of peer mentors that are the first point of contact. So the students that are calling in and texting have a bunch of issues that are happening. We respond and we support the students in any way that we can. If they're looking for additional resources, and we'll be talking about that on the next webinar, we have a bunch of people we've connected with that can help the students. There is something important to know, excuse me, that when you come here, a lot of the counseling and support with nonprofits is not funded by the federal government. So these students, if you don't find support on the college or university campus, that's where we come in. We have partnered with nonprofit organizations that can provide you counseling free of charge. We are raising funds to cover the cost for those nonprofits. So it's sunocharity.com. On Instagram, we're on Suno Canada. So over to you, Karan Pratap and Guneet.
Thank you, Anu. Right. Based on our previous slide, actually, I haven't. It's 2 years now that I'm in Canada, and I haven't done one labor shift, like in terms of a warehouse or a factory. And I believe I've still done good. It's really the choices you make in where you want to see yourself. And, again, like Anu started this whole thing with setting boundaries as to what you're comfortable doing for a survival. You have your GIC, but then you start budgeting, and then you want to decide as to what's your target for the month. And then you work towards that. And you always can explore as to what you want to do and where you want to be at. In terms of experiences or real insights of Canada, I think we're open to questions, and then we can begin, sharing as to what we went through or what you've been thinking and what this is sounding like to you. That would be really helpful for us to know where exactly the participants or our audience today wants to know more about.
Okay, so I think Guneet, you've said the right thing. If there are any questions from the participant students, you're most welcome either to type it in the chat box or do raise your hand, and we can get you live to ask those questions to the panelist. There has been a great insight. All right, so there is a question from Robandeep to everyone. How should we do budgeting? I think this was touched on during the last session.
Yes.
We spoke about the budgeting part. So I think there's another Jaspreet Singh. Jaspreet, if you're there online, we would like you to switch on your camera. And why don't you ask your question directly to the panelist?
I guess we also had this question in our previous session as well. If I learn French, would I get more opportunities?
Yes. Yeah.
You do get a lot of opportunities, if you learn French. I think if you have a chance to learn French, you should definitely do it, because I'm planning to do French, and our back in my country, back in India, our hostel was providing French classes, but I was dumb enough to not do it. So I regret it,
Okay. Yeah. So if you have an opportunity to learn or take up French, please do. Others Singh has, do Canadian universities provide conditional letter of acceptance?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
So that is also a very important question to you both students. There are students who have the last day to pay up their fees, and they're not able to make a right choice whether this is good college or university for them, or should they wait because there's a deadline to be met. So is there a way that they can ask the university to issue a conditional offer letter and then they can make a choice, or is it full and final? They need to go with what they have.
According to my knowledge, I think you have a time period even after joining the course where you can choose to switch out and do something that you'd want to do. I think you have a time period of a month or so. Correct me, Karan, if you know better. So I think you always have that opportunity, even once you get into a course. I've seen a lot of students come in, start of a course, they don't seem to fit in, and then they can always switch out. You also have some programs where you can shift into different colleges. A few colleges have a tie-up with other ones. So, I mean, there are a lot of options that you can explore for sure.
So is it the fees that they've already paid gets stuck and they need to pay up another fees or something like that, because money matters?
Of course it does. For what I know, for the given time period that they, inform about, your money doesn't get stuck. But yeah, if you go beyond then then it might affect, I guess.
Yeah. If I recall it correctly, when I applied for my university, we were first, obviously we applied for, I think we applied for the offer letter. I have a short memory, so I can be very wrong in this. But I think we did apply for the offer letter, which has like the specified amount that you're supposed to pay. And if you get your offer letter, then you can indulge yourself in the further things that you're supposed to do. So
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. And when it comes to choosing a university, if you want to do any college or university, first of all, I think that obviously it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does matter the college you get in, but most of all, it comes from your heart. If you really have a will to study, you can really do it. I have so many friends, I have so many examples. I know some real people who have come from government schools and they're studying in some eminent universities in England and in the United States. So I do believe that if you really have a will to study, you can do anything. That doesn't mean that if I would have got into Harvard, I would have chosen University of Winnipeg over Harvard. Of course, I would have went to Harvard University.
Yeah, true, Karan. I have two participants here raising their hands. One is Simran, and another is Dr. Rajeshri Datta. So I'll invite Dr. Rajeshri Datta for your question to the panelist here.
I think there are some questions in the chat too.
Yes, I was just looking at that. All right.
You need to reply. Okay.
Yes. Okay, if Dr. Rajeshri Datta is not able to connect, Simran, would you like to ask a question?
I am here, Harpreet ji.
Okay.
Hi, Harpreet ji.
Hi, good evening. Good
Hi.
evening, Dr. Datta.
Hi, Anu, how are you?
I'm good, Rajeshri. How are you?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. We were discussing something in the morning, and my question is very simple, and I would really address this question to the young panelists that we have today. Again, how do you choose a particular country for furthering your higher studies? Do the courses that you want to excel, that you want to create a career out of, important, or perhaps because Canada has it's like more it's an easily accessible country. You have relatives. The conditions are very softer conditions that we have, and then we try and decide on choosing a particular country. So I hope I have been able to articulate my question.
Yeah. Can I go first?
Yeah, please.
Awesome. Can I be really honest with you?
Yes.
Completely honest. For myself, I never wanted to come to Canada. It's, I'm not kidding. I got into Christ University, Bangalore. If there's a university in Bangalore.
Yes. Yes.
So, I was in a pretty good position. I got into a BBA, and it can, a lot of my friends are getting a good job. They're getting good paid. For me personally, and this is why, I engage myself so much with mental health. I've been suffering from mental health. I'd like to be open about it. I've had depression. I have an anxiety, and I do believe that people need to be more open about it. People need to talk about it because it's something which is really predominant in our age. Especially in our current age, and India is like a highly parochial country. So for me, I think if you really I think when it comes to choosing courses, I believe there are so many good courses in India too. And I think for me personally, when I came to University of Winnipeg, I never wanted to come to Canada. It was just this situation, and obviously, you know how brown parents are. They just wanted you to go to Canada. So after all, when I did not have any chance, I did not have any other plan, I was really specific about one thing, that I wanted to do something in political science or in philosophy. and I want to study in university because I always want to prioritize my studies over my work or over other things, So I looked at, I think you're supposed to do some surfing on the internet, check out the various rankings, talk with some other people, ranking is good stuff. And in the end, I think University of Winnipeg was a good choice for me. And I was really fortunate. I'm still fortunate that, it's a great environment. It's great. And I think if you really want to pursue your education, Canada is a good country. But if you really want to be educated, if you really want to specialize yourself, there are other countries too, United States and England, and India too. I feel India has great education.
Yes.
Right.
Correct. Yes.
Simran, I'll request you to, ask your question. Simran, are you there? No, I think she just raised her hand and she's not there. No problem. There are some questions in the chat box. Jagtar Singh, if you're there, would you like to ask or can I ask on your behalf?
I've been answering questions as much as I can actually on the
Yes,
chat.
I know. I can see your, I'm seeing you very active answering. So I think the students can actually read through the question and the answers being put in by Guneet.
So Harpreet, if you don't mind, so Jagtar's question about Ontario becoming the hub of students. So we talked a little bit about this at the last webinar, but what's happening is Vancouver, Ottawa, and Montreal are where a lot of the students are coming to, but because it's so saturated, the students are facing difficulties getting their PR. So a lot of the students have gone to other provinces such as Nova Scotia, New Brunswick on the East Coast, and Saskatchewan. So other provinces where it's not as heavily populated because it's quicker for them to get their PR. So that's the information that I know, and I have a relative that left Ontario and he's on his way to get his PR now in New Brunswick. Because
so there's a question that comes to my mind, Anuji, that while the students are making the choice of university, there's a complicated problem that objective is also to get a PR. Now, if it is a saturated province, how do they get to know? Is there a link where they can, check it out or how they can educate themselves?
So what's happening, I think it has to do with the colleges and universities. This is, and I was quoted this on a newspaper and I'm going to stick to it, that this is a cash cow for the federal government. So a lot of these colleges and universities won't talk about what happens after. You graduate, great, fantastic. You've taken your life savings and put it into our educational institution, right? So I think doing the research and finding out what level, like what the chances of them getting their PR, especially in their field, after they graduate is very important. But as far as I know, the three major provinces, the three heavily densely populated provinces, are the ones that it's becoming difficult to get their PR.
So, if I may add, I've got a lot of friends in Toronto and Vancouver, and I believe I have this friend who she was doing a business course and she really excelled in it. So I believe that if you really get good marks in your course, it's really comparatively easy to get your PR. I mean, she studies in Toronto. I think she graduated from some college. And she's PR, and she came 3 years ago. So, there are some things that you got to consider. And I believe, and I agree, there's a lot of, I never knew that, Winnipeg, it's easiest to get your PR, because I do believe, I always reiterate this thing. If you really want to get your PR, okay, if that's your goal, just choose a college and get your PR as soon as you can. But if you really want to come here for studies, don't think about PR for those 4 years or 3 years that you want to study. You will get your PR. But more important is to get your education, That's
yes,
more.
Karan, the problem here in India is that they think the PR first and then the
Exactly,
it's the other way around.
It's and that kind of baffles me in a way that even if you get your PR, so what will you do? If you don't really have any plan, what are you gonna do?
So Karan, if I could just interrupt here for a second. Yeah. So I was a settlement worker in the late 90s, early 2000s. At the time, the Canadian government allowed for foreign trained workers to come here. Bring your families. Canada's the land of opportunity. So these people, the families would come here, but they'd have no Canadian experience. So they'd take entry-level jobs working in labor just to make ends meet. The word spread and that stopped. So in my opinion, being in this field, this is the new form of settlement where the government has to put $0 to help support them, right? This is the new influx. So now because the parents can't come with their children because of all the restrictions that they put, the children are the ticket to PR and Canadian residency. That's why I think that the pressure, and I'm not trying to offend any parents here, but this is what the federal government has. Let's bring the students in because we don't have to invest in them. They're investing in us. They're bringing in money. We don't have to provide any services for them. And then eventually they can bring their families that can contribute to the Canadian economy. That's why I think PR is such like the first thought, because the families want to come here and the student is their ticket to coming here.
I think you touched a very sensitive but the right point here. Thank you so much, Anaji.
You're welcome.
Any question? Any question? Any of the students here? I had seen Simran's hand go up, but then
yeah, Sim raised hand. I can see.
Yeah, it's still there. Simran, if you're there, we don't see your question. Any question from any of the students present here?
So Rajeshwari Ji asked a question while we're waiting for the students to provide. So Rajeshwari Ji, so we don't have a virtual platform right now, but we've partnered here in Ontario. We partnered with the distress centers of Greater Toronto area. So, and they speak majority of the top spoken South Asian languages. And so they are available 24 hours, 7 days a week. So we would be connecting with them. If the students wanted in-person counseling, we have that through PCHS where Guneet works. And we have a few other students that are going to be working there. PCHS has actually created a specific program to work with international students. So in Ontario, whether it's in-person or virtual counseling, we have different options for that.
Lovely. Jaspreet is asking a question: is global and international studies program good enough?
Oh, Guneet has already responded.
She's already checked. So Jaspreet, you can actually just scroll through the chat box. I don't see any more questions. Yes, please.
No, sorry, I just don't want to make Jaspreet feel bad. Yes, Jaspreet, it's good enough, but it's always about knowing what you want to do. And if that interests you, go ahead. You will also have other options, like I mentioned, like project management and supply chain management that are closely related, but different courses. So you also want to maybe look into that and see if that aligns with what you were looking for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any more questions coming. Last call for Simran, because your hand is still raised up. I don't know, but can students get paid internships if they are studying in college?
I think they can. Like for university, I think you gotta have to like wait for like 1 year. And I don't know, I think you're gonna have to be in your second year in order to get internships. But I think I'm pretty sure actually you can get internships. Whenever you like get into university, there are so many other websites where you can look for internships. So I will recommend you to apply and as many internships as you can.
Great.
That's a good way to
Yeah.
However, some colleges I would like to add also specifically mention that, you have to do an unpaid internship for your course. So that could be something. But if you are getting an opportunity to get something that's paid, that's brilliant.
One question comes to my mind, Guneet and Karan, that you just mentioned about the unpaid internships. Now, the question here is that, these youngsters, they say that I'm investing my time into building your organization and helping you do your work. So what would you want to convey to them? Is unpaid internship a must, and what do they gain out of it, and why they
Okay.
should do it?
That's a very good question, Harpreet ji. So let me add my experience here, because I felt it was, it really pinched my soul somewhere, because my course had 525 hours of unpaid co-op, that is internship, within 4 months, wherein, so that meant I had to work for an organization unpaid full time with my part time, and I had to pay about $8,000 to do my co-op,
Okay.
as a part of my fee. Now, if I raised question, and we had COVID during that time, and most of my classmates did it online. I was one of those fortunate ones who actually could get into a distress center, and I took crisis calls, and I could do it in person. I was very fortunate. But yeah, I mean, there are some things that if you want, so it is a criteria to, really finish your course successfully. If you don't do your placement, be it paid, unpaid, you still have to kind of do it as part of your program. So maybe even when you're choosing your program, you want to look into these things. So later on, you're not, feeling bumped as to, okay, I have to pay for it. I'm not getting paid for it. And, I'm working almost 60 hours a week. So yeah.
Yes, this is very important. And, here in India, with my organizations, we do offer internships, and we tell students it's unpaid. And that's where, those lights go up. That's what one of the questions,
Yeah, I agree. There's like a major exploitation which is happening with international students. I've always said that, I've always reiterated this thing. That's why I want international students to mobilize, not violently, but
Mhm.
intellectually,
Yeah.
show them how strong we are. And I believe it, I believe how much potential we have. I just don't want them to get diverted. And I think, this is like it's like the turmoil of, of current job sector. And I don't want to get into politics, because if I get into it, I will not stop. And I'm kind of, dubious about this capitalist structure we have. I'm dubious about everything. If it's according to me, I'll have a socialized country, actually. Yeah, it's this is one thing which I've always, my professor is one, he's an anarchist, and, anarchist, not in a way that he's the Hitler or something, he just wants every social institution to be abolished, and, just people should rule. What I'm trying to say
People
is that,
united will never be defeated.
exactly, yeah. And, as I say, it's important to kind of, but, as looking to a job sector, and if you really want a good job, I think, you should go for the unpaid internship, because Gunit is actually getting a good job, working a good job. And I think unpaid internship really helped her into,
So, right. The other thing is that, somewhere volunteering, doing unpaid internships kind of shows your future employer, or, your potential employer, the fact that you're passionate about what you're doing, even if you're not getting something out of it in terms of money. And somewhere that will take you a long way. I think that, for other people to know that you will still stay committed to what you want to do.
If I can just share something as well, that Suno, we are creating mentorships at all levels. I'm telling everybody this, that in 2 to 5 years, I'm not going to be the face or the person that you're going to see when you see Suno. It's going to probably be Gunit or someone else. I want students to be running this organization, right? Students are the ones that are going through this. I can speak secondhand, but I think students should be the face, and it should be run by students. And I think it's important to get the message out from someone who understands and who students can relate to. So, we have opportunities to volunteer, but eventually it'll become paid. Karan Pratap's in Winnipeg, we want to be across the country. So, regardless of if you're in Ontario or somewhere else, we can kind of connect you and provide opportunities for you if social services is the field that you want to go to and you want to help other students.
That's very well said. Yeah, that's very well said.
I just
Yes,
want to
Karan.
add 2 more important points before we wrap up, because I don't know if I will ever get a chance,
You will.
Please,
Trust me.
please, go
but
ahead.
yeah, still, yeah, I'm a really talkative guy. I've heard that a lot. So one thing is, obviously, when it comes to choosing your education, and I've been advocating against this thing from a long time, even when I was in my boarding school, even when people had this tendency to go to Canada. And I don't like when people have this materialistic aim. I mean, obviously, I'm not completely against materialism, obviously, it's important to kind of think about money and think about your future and stuff like that. But when it comes to choosing your education, I find people doing courses which they think is gonna get, earn them more money in the future. And that is such a wrong approach. Education in its entirety, in its essence, is your knowledge. It's this undesirable amount of knowledge which you can gain. It's such a privilege. There's this social dichotomy in our society where richer are getting richer and poor are getting poor. And believe me when I say this, in Winnipeg, there are so many indigenous people who do not even have a home. And even in India, there are slum areas, in Africa, and what's happening in China, in Africa, and every other, Ukraine, for example. We should be so lucky. We have one life, it's like, I kind of quoted Eminem in this, we have one opportunity. We should seize it. And it's our opportunity, this is our life, and we should start from education, because education is one thing which brings us together. Right now, we are together, we are mobilized, and we are united. And another thing is, this is kind of, different, but it's important. It's about sex. It's about safe sex, when someone comes to Canada, obviously it's a Western country, there's, so many open things, but I just want to appeal. I just want to, just tell this to my students, to my friends over here, engage yourself in safe sex, because, there's like scarcity of sex education, which is in India. People do not really have a good amount of sex education. It's really important to, indulge yourself in safe sex, because it's dangerous. It can rip your life apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very importantly brought out, Karan. I'm glad that you've been very vocal in bringing out very intrinsic things. Very, very good point. If Anuji, you permit me, I can take your permission to close the sessions, because I don't see any more questions coming in.
Please, that would be great. I think the third session we're going to have in January. I have to go for surgery. So after my surgery, so we're looking towards probably towards the end of January. Thank you.
All the best to you, Anuji. You get well soon.
I think someone raised his hand.
Yeah, Dayaji.
Okay. Yeah, Dayajit, quickly. Can we have a question?
Maybe it was just internet when it's saying.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. I'm audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Ma'am, just 1 minute. First of all, Sat Shri Akal to Anu ma'am, Harpreet ma'am, Guneet and Karandeep. My question is, what are the general life skills you should learn before studying to Canada? Apart from studying and planning and financial, just general skills you should know before stepping into Canada. That's
a whole session there, Jeet.
Just extra, which you would like to add.
I think discipline is one thing. Obviously, you should be really disciplined. Second, communications. You should be really, I don't get it. Why are people fearful about anything? It's just why do you care about what other people think about you? I have had so many embarrassing situations. I'm not even kidding. I've had, I asked this question in a long seminar in front of everybody, and everybody laughed at my question. But the way I thought of this, is like, I'm kind of adding humor into the situation. So be socializable, interact with people. It's a new country. Be disciplined. I think that's it.
When you talk of life skills, for sure, communication skills is something which covers the major part of it. And of course, you have to be street smart at times, how you judge people, how you interpret what they talk with their body language, etc. I think it's like you said, it's a session all by itself. We could do one, separately on this. Before we close this session, I would like to bring out the important points which have been highlighted by our panelists here, that do not forget your Indian values, which you've been taught by your parents. Do not be overwhelmed by the situation and the new environment that you're going to be in. So be very, very conscious of your presence in the new circumstances and the people around you. Life skills we just spoke about, it's stressed again in this session. So read more about it online. Talk to people who can actually train you into life skills. Choose your course wisely. That point brought out by Karan was very, very important because you are applying as a student. So don't forget your major aim. Health benefits and the coverage, people may take you for a ride. So be very, very sure, as these students had brought out, read what is available from that university. Go through all the details, check back, and do not get, trapped. What Anuji has been saying, don't get trapped. Of course, there would be collaborations, what Suno is going to do with various distress centers. You have students who will be there to help you. We are trying to bring out this through our, GYS panel discussions and things like that. So please tell your friends to keep attending these sessions. More youth attend, more awareness would be created, and you become part of the GYS of PCC. It's going to be a great youth drive that will happen. We have Karan, who's so motivated, Guneet, who's creating this awareness amongst all of us. So all the best to you guys. I take your leave, Anuji. Thank you so much for being on this and bringing this student a lot for all of us. Thank you, Rajshri and Robundeep. Thank you for coordinating all this, and the admin team who's been working behind the scenes. And I'm here for the second session. And hopefully, once Anuji is well, we'll have the third one. Hopefully, I should be there because there's a link that has been built up on the RAPO. And the questions that keep coming to my mind. Of course, there will be many more great things coming through all of you.
Yes.
Thank you all.
You can do it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you for
Bye.
having
All right.
us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Sashikal.